I don't know why I like it. I just always have.
This is a conscious effort on our part to open the creative envelope, so to speak, in order to entertain you in a more contemporary manner. Even though we call ourselves sports entertainment because of the athleticism involved, the key word in that phrase is entertainment.
Vince McMahon has lost his mind. The man doesn't have it anymore.
We in the WWF think that you, the audience, are quite frankly tired of having your intelligence insulted.
Have you watched the television show lately?
We also think that you're tired of the same old simplistic theory of good guys versus bad guys. Therefore, we've embarked upon a far more innovative and contemporary creative campaign that is far more invigorating and extemporaneous than ever before.
Because while Doink the Clown had a green hair and a rubber nose, Stone Cold Steve Austin was drinking his first beer in ECW, damn you. Oh, we got attitude. You got nothing, man.
As the times have changed, so have we.
If you thought the coronavirus was going to stop us, then you are mistaken, my friend, because it'll take a damn sight more than some paltry beers with limes in to stop. Wait, that's not how you get it? Oh, okay, fair enough. This is Beyond the Beermat. My name is Stuart Quigley. Alongside me is Matt, just Matt. Thought I'd get that intro out of the way so we could get straight stuck into what was a momentous 7 days in the world of wrestling, where WWE actually managed to pull the rug from under everyone and actually create a star, or at least attempt to. The Royal Rumble was last week, and going into it, there was all sorts of speculation as to who, what, where, why, and, you know, in the end of it, Roman Reigns is going to just walk away with the victory. Brock Lesnar's part, that was the big mystery, what's he going to do? And effectively, we found out that it was all set up for him to dominate the first half, which some people didn't enjoy, but for me, it allowed the second half to be dominated by one man, the winner, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, it did. It was good, wasn't it?
It was the best Rumble they've had for years.
Let's not beat around the bush. It was really good. Having listened to other reviews and saying about the Royal Rumble since it happened, they had a tough situation with the whole, like everyone's referring to it as a sort of two-part Rumble.
Yeah.
You had the Brock Lesnar bit, obviously, for the first half, and then you had the let's throw everyone else in there and basically do half a Royal Rumble and just wrap this up and let's all go home happy, which everyone did, except Vince McMahon and Roman Reigns. Anyway, yeah, the trouble they had was who do you put in to get squashed against Brock Lesnar? You need to have that sort of caliber of wrestler. Like, we don't want to bury anyone really,
no,
but we've also got to make him look a little bit shit. I was annoyed by two of the options they went for, but then also not surprised.
Can I hazard a guess here?
Yeah, go on then.
They took a lot of effort a few months ago in making NXT guys look like they were at least on par with the main roster.
Yeah.
In the Rumble, they sort of went back on that a little and made someone like Keith Lee, who's been pushed to the moon, look a little dumb.
No, they made Keith Lee. I thought they made Keith Lee look really good. Or at least Brock Lesnar's reactions to him.
Big boy.
Big boy, yeah. I'm sure there was an MFer in there as well. I won't say the words, but there was definitely an MFer mouthed towards him when he stepped out.
I gotta say, if you said to me that Brock Lesnar was doing the Jean-Claude Van Damme dance from Kickboxer at any point, immediate best Royal Rumble for years. Well, you were mentioning about who could potentially get, pause on this, tossed by Brock.
Sure.
The thing is that like when you're looking at options, and when because obviously I said at the start he's the big question mark in this Royal Rumble. The only two sort of people that sprung to mind were like, oh, it's going to be Roman Reigns that gets rid of him, or it's going to be someone like Keith Lee, which is ridiculous, really, when you consider the spectrum of wrestler that you've got in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it can only be someone from NXT, or probably the most over babyface on the roster. And in actuality, what they did was what was needed, which was someone that was there that could do with that, and then the double down on the surprise to me. So McIntyre eliminates Lesnar, and then goes on to win it. Because you think when it gets down to two, and this is the one advantage with the weird way WWE books in recent years, because we see it so predictable that when they just twist it slightly, everyone just loses their mind.
Yeah. You're giving him two rubs.
Yeah.
You're giving him the double rub.
I said about being tossed by Brock, but the double rub, geez.
Stop at one, don't keep going.
But is this in sort of, I don't want to say negative terms, what we've been clamouring for, or I've been suggesting they could do all along. Like, one of the things that comes out of this is like, see, we knew you could do this. And does that make it slightly more frustrating that, like, it's one thing to actively not know how to create new stars, but they clearly know how to. This is just a specific choice.
Yeah, they clearly know how to, but not everyone, and I've said it before, not everyone can be a star. Not everyone can be a brain surgeon or walk on the moon. We've only got a limited amount of, well, I know they've got a roster of 200 people, but they've only got a limited amount of people that they can put all their eggs into the baskets of, because then you've got to think about the things behind it. If you're the face of a company, so we're not going to say Drew McIntyre is at the moment, because even now there's talks of, yes, he's going to get his WrestleMania moment, and it's going to be against Brock Lesnar. But guess what? That match might not actually be the main event of WrestleMania still. We've still got a lot of other matches to put on this card.
I was going to say, actually,
McIntyre the one to do it?
I was going to get onto this later on, but do you think that will be the main event?
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so. The problem is, and this is going back to them putting eggs into baskets, and this comes from like more of a sort of monetary side of things, so the finances behind it, which, by the way, the stocks of WWE have just gone through the floor, haven't they?
Yeah.
Just gone absolutely tits up. Thinking about the merchandise and the posters and like the advertising and everything, so even on TV and radio and things like that, Drew McIntyre is nowhere near a household name, which, yes, granted, Roman Reigns arguably isn't. That's a portmanteau of isn't there?
Yes.
Drew McIntyre isn't exactly a recognisable face to be stuck up on the posters and all the bloody flags that they have going down the high street in New York or wherever, WrestleMania this year, New Orleans or some shit.
Does then, I've got two questions for you. Does the match placement hurt McIntyre in the first instance then? Because the first person that springs to mind I'm thinking about, oh, you're going to get your WrestleMania moment, it's Kofi.
Really?
Yeah. Because everyone knew he was going to get that WrestleMania moment, and we had this debate last year when we talked about the match. The match itself was the moment. For McIntyre, he kind of has to win it, I think, to have that WrestleMania moment.
I know, but it's so... Maybe the Fed will pull the rug underneath our feet. And I know it will piss everyone off if they do that.
Opening.
And, no, not opening it, but... It seems to happen all the time now, where if you win the Rumble, you win the main event of WrestleMania. Maybe it's time that they do the old John Cena, you've won the Money in the Bank and you've gone and lost the match.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind it so much, depending on the chemistry. It's really hard to work out, actually, with given Brock Lesnar's schedule. I would not mind them doing a 3-match feud, which sort of leads on to something else, and then him winning the belt at the end of it.
The only way you're going to do that is opening the door to a screwy finish with Brock Lesnar, and someone that you've built up as dominant. His matches don't end in... Oh, they could end in a DQ if McIntyre actually put up a decent fight. Brock gets pissed off and then grabs a chair or something like that. And then that what also will annoy people, if you're going for this sort of 3-match series, when's the first match going to be? Say WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You don't have a WrestleMania match end on a DQ. Brock Lesnar gets pissed off and grabs a chair.
That used to be the case, but not so much with 2 quote-unquote world title caliber level titles. And in the idea of trying to build Drew McIntyre, because we've got 2 separate things here. This is the other question I was going to ask you. We've got Drew McIntyre after the Rumble, which is what I said about Kofi, because as soon as he won the title, everyone's like, oh, he's going to lose it. And he kept it, and his reign was actually quite good, but it was never important, or never booked as important.
No, but that's the secondary title, though, isn't it?
I just want to see what we see afterwards. And this is kind of why I said the 3-match series, because if Drew McIntyre is continuing to fight Brock Lesnar, regardless of whether he's got the belt or not, at least it will seem important. The other thing I was going to say, though, is, and I think this is interesting based on what WWE have done in the last 7 days, as we said, what do you do between now and then to make sure he doesn't cool off?
That's a toughie.
Because
I'm thinking of is probably going down the route of showing his sort of fall from grace. You could go for that sort of angle of climbing this mountain. In 2007, he was known as Vince's boy, the one that was going to be the face of the company, climb the mountain. That was over a decade ago now since that actually happened. WWE seem to have this sort of agreement with smaller federations where they can show footage and show everything that Drew McIntyre has done since then. So building himself up as a semi-decent star on the indie scene.
Well, I remember the promo that he cut, and I think it was Progress, but I'm going to get the federation wrong, so it's neither here nor there. It was in Scotland immediately after his release, and the way he spoke was like, hang on, I never realised he could talk, let alone like that. He was basically speaking not as a WWE superstar, he was speaking as a man that had a dream, and that dream has now gone to this, but he's still going to get back to that quote-unquote top. And at the time you're thinking, I'm not sure you're going to get back to that. Yeah. And he's actually surpassed it already.
You're in the indie leagues.
Yeah.
Get used to it, my friend.
This is neither here nor there, but the idea that 2 of the 3 members of three-man band have gone on to world title levels. Heath Slater, man, he's killing it.
I know, Heath Slater, he is. His time in the sun must be coming up.
I think they've got to be very careful, because I said about the promo, and I do think that, like, for an American audience, any voice that isn't any variance of American, especially as a babyface, you have to be very careful. But I do think they've done a good job of, not just the Rumble, but before that, of keeping Drew McIntyre in a spot that's sort of like he doesn't need to do any of that right now. He might have to do some between now and Mania. This is where Heyman, I think, will come in and be quite good, I think. Because it will take a lot of the weight of that off it.
That's Heyman's role anyway. Neither of them can talk. Brock Lesnar and McIntyre can talk, Brock Lesnar can talk, but Brock Lesnar just churns out garbage like I do on a podcast. And Drew McIntyre, if he opens his mouth, he's a dirty foreign heel. So that's the whole point of having Heyman from Word 1 for Brock Lesnar, and he'll be doing the same for McIntyre, won't he?
Let's put it this way, Heyman, and it does hurt me a little bit, because this is again going back to what I said about WWE. They know they can do this, they just choose to do it very specifically. Paul Heyman, in 2 seconds, made Shelton Benjamin look like a really big threat, or a big deal at least.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, hang on, if they're going to do this now, could they have not just said something on a Raw before?
Are you talking in terms of make Shelton Benjamin look good?
I'd just mention it before the Rumble, because when it came out,
in the Rumble, they did a bloody good job. Old Michael Cole on commentary of actually mentioning the past between Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin, by the way, looked like an absolute mug in that Rumble. You clown, you absolute idiot.
Yeah, well, it's just this was the problem you've got with Brock Lesnar. Like, this is why some people didn't like it necessarily, but whether you agree with it or appreciate it, they had a story to tell and they told it, which is not something that you get in Rumbles past for the last, I'd say, 10 years maybe. Yeah. So we sort of dealt with the idea of like Heyman will sort of do what he did in a 5-minute period to Shelton, to Drew McIntyre over the course of...
He'll tell the story, basically.
Yeah. Right. The other issue is that there is a pay-per-view, if not pay-per-views, in between. And you've got to be very careful of, you need to put him against a credible opponent. And bear in mind where I'm going with this, you're going to hate this. Someone that has name value, but also someone that is sort of deemed, I don't know, like a physical threat as well. I am convinced he's fighting the Big Show.
Oh, God.
They wheeled him out a couple of Raws before the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
He did not appear at the Royal Rumble. They've done this before with a couple of people.
Yeah.
They wheel out the Big Show to make him look credible against Brock Lesnar, or to make other people look credible against Brock Lesnar.
Oh, no, this is his biggest opponent yet, the world's largest athlete.
Yeah.
No, he's not. He's a wrestler that hasn't been wrestling for donkey's years, like constant stream. The last time he wrestled, was it like Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns in a cage match or some shit? You wheel him out to look like a credible threat, but all you're doing is...
filling time?
You're just putting out a potential star against just another jobber in the Big Show, which pains me to say, because I still like the Big Show, but you know he's always going to lose.
Yeah.
He's had a career full of losses because you're a big man. So who else have you actually got on that roster that you can put Drew McIntyre up against?
That actually makes sense though as well, because Big Show sort of makes sense. Like you could, I mean, it's tenuous, but Big Show's the Paul Heyman guy. He's the guy that Paul Heyman sold out Brock Lesnar for. So you can get away with that. If you want to be really up your own arse and clever, I'd have
Cesaro.
No.
Oh, come
Just
on, Cesaro. Give him that push.
Yeah. Well, when Cesaro ran out at the Rumble and like had a bit of a go over Brock Lesnar, he was a little bit like, oh, this could be good. And then it was like 2 seconds later, no.
What a shame.
Yeah. The only other guy I can think of, because it sort of has to tie into Lesnar,
Yeah.
and I don't think this would work because I think this would undo everything you're trying to achieve, is Ricochet.
Why? Ricochet's face.
Yeah, you have Paul Heyman play the devil's advocate role of like getting into Ricochet's ear and going, you're the one that kicked him in the balls, you're the one that like
You did all
downed
the
the
work,
beast,
yeah.
he gets all the glory, he's taking your spot, etc, etc. Problem with that is, how the fuck do you have a match at whatever pay-per-view it is in between, where both of these have to sort of come away with it as faces, one of them has to play it as the heel, and you can't have Paul Heyman out there the whole time. So while it makes sort of sense storyline-wise, it makes no use to either of them. This is why I think it's so easy to just slot the Big Show in there.
I'm going to throw a bit of a curvy ball at you,
Oh,
Stu,
yes.
yeah?
Oh, I had to duck it.
So, rumour is, word on the street,
Yeah.
is that old Drew McIntyre was a bit of a last-minute sort of, he's the guy we're going to do. Just, look, we're scrapping the plans that we might have built up over the last 3 to 6 months. Creative.
Yes,
You failed
plans
to do your job again.
built up. Those words doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Get those plans out of the way, yeah?
Yeah.
I've changed my mind. We're going to go with Drew McIntyre. What if they decide that actually, Drew McIntyre, unfortunately, this isn't your time after all, and they do a sort of screw job on him in, what is it, Elimination Chamber, the next one? Is that usually the middle one?
There is a middle one. I don't know what it is.
Could you see, because that's another way to fill time, let's try for #1 contender again. I'm right pissed off with you, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, God,
Could
he
you
could
see
fight
them-
fucking Dolph Ziggler, couldn't he? No, because they used to be together.
Did they?
Yeah, when Dolph Ziggler was repackaged, like...
Oh,
I think-
yeah, they were
I think
mates, weren't they?
3
for a bit?
repackages ago,
Oh,
yeah.
well, you could do then. Well, maybe Dolph Ziggler's the man to... He's
To
good at filling
prepare
time.
Drew McIntyre for Brock Lesnar. Jesus Christ.
Your biggest threat, yeah. Dolph Ziggler.
I think the laughter there says it all, to be honest. This is like why the Big Show sounds like such a dumb, useless answer, but ultimately I think it might be the most correct one that we can find.
It needs to... Well, that's
'Cause the
thing,
danger
it
you've
needs
got-
to be someone big and angry looking.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman? No, he's wrapped up with the IC title belt now. Who else is
Do
big
you,
and
do you
angry?
reckon you could strap the rocket to Shelton and make it seem like...
No, it's time. He's done
That was
anyway.
that segment just over with,
Yeah.
okay. The problem you've got then is we do have this time, and as much as I said what happens after WrestleMania is important, if we get to WrestleMania and all the momentum that has been built over the last 2 weeks or so, because when he came out on Raw he got a fantastic ovation, but if by the time we get to WrestleMania he's been sort of neutered, Becky Lynch, then they're not going to do anything with him. We're not going to get our Brock Lesnar wacky DQ finish because Brock Lesnar will just pin him clean in 3 minutes if he's lost to nobody
And that'll
again.
be it.
Yeah.
Done. Jobs are good. And forget about those 3 months. Let's move on to the build to SummerSlam.
Like
Hooray!
in straight up wrestling terms, they say like it's about getting the belt, but it's harder to keep it. When you've got someone like this, and it's so weird that like when someone raises themselves up from the pack, so to speak, usually that person is someone that the fans have been clamouring for, and the WWE is going, no, you don't want that. You don't want that. And then, and then eventually the Fed just gives in and goes, fine, we'll give you that guy, but it was our idea the whole time, and we have to pretend that we booked this long term, even though we didn't. Daniel Bryan, Kofi, etc. Drew McIntyre is one of the first examples I can think of in a very long time where WWE have gone, this is the guy, sort of out of nowhere almost, and the crowd have gone, yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm down with that. And so the balance between now and Mania is so tricky to sort of navigate the tightrope of it all, because I'm kind of frightened on a week-to-week basis that one bad promo and it's like back to the mid-car with you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? They've obviously see some sort of potential in old Drew McIntyre. What I'd have asked is there anyone else? Because I always like to come back to the argument of being the right guy in the right place at the right time.
That's a reference to a Hulk Hogan promo, by the way. Not anything that he's just decided to go rogue.
If we're just picking people at random...
This is, okay, this is...
Who else could you have seen?
Yeah.
Because the other call was a potential for Aleister Black to do it. He's someone that was like Drew McIntyre, where the wheels are spinning, you're not in a programme on Raw or SmackDown,
No.
you're not really doing much, you're waiting for someone to come and knock your door for some reason.
The problem with that, though, is that goes back to the Keith Lee argument of, like, it's Vince's brand new shiny toys. You get someone that's, like, from NXT, and they're all, oh, this guy's amazing because he's got this, and this. And At least with Drew McIntyre, there's a story to tell in the sense of that he's gone on a journey, as opposed to Aleister Black. He's really good in the Indies. He's really good here. That's the story.
That's the same as Drew McIntyre, though.
Yeah, at least he's had setbacks. At least
The thing is, a lot of people aren't even going to remember because of the target audience that the Feds sort of be aiming at. Although they seem to be moving away from that for the last sort of few months, relating to things that might have happened in the past a bit more.
Is this because of like Heyman booking Raw and what's been going on SmackDown?
Yeah, it could well be something to do with that.
Yeah.
Like someone with an ounce of wrestling acumen behind them or knowledge about the product, rather than just a few soap opera writers going, "Hello, can I have a job, please? You're hired." Book some wrestlers to do matches. They don't have to make sense, and there doesn't need to be any long-term storyline.
It's not even good soap opera writers. If you were telling me there was a storyline in a WWE where someone was addicted to crack and then 2 days later they got rid of it, I'd be fine with it.
Phil Mitchell.
Yeah, it could be great. EastEnders storyline writers. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, the last couple of years of Raw, they've been about as miserable.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a pretty dire place, isn't it? Watching Raw.
Walford, WWE Universe, maybe they're interconnected, yeah.
Who knows, you might see Big Mo in the ring at some stage. Good God. Well, Aleister Black is one option. Who else have you got? Pick any mid-carder and you've got yourself a WrestleMania main event. Not Dolph. Pick someone that's spoken on the microphone more than Drew McIntyre has. Someone with an American accent. You're still making it look like Drew McIntyre is the underdog against Brock Lesnar, which is understandable because everyone should come across as the underdog.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a bit more sort of, he's got more of a presence in the ring than the likes of Ricochet or Pete Dunne or even Aleister Black. He's a bloody great big Scotsman. He's a big fella. He's very muscular in that. So have you got any sort of bulky Vince beef
Hosses,
yeah, have you got a big hoss that's done a bit more mic time than Drew McIntyre?
It's an interesting question that I haven't had the chance to go back and check. So I could be wrong on this, but the odds are there is a possibility. So it's like, I'd say maybe like a 1 in 4 chance of this. I wonder if Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre have met before. I wonder if during all his time they've actually come across each other before.
Nice choice of words.
Yeah, steady on. Brock tugging everyone, it's just great. Just purely because, and I'm not sure that this is, I mean, if you're going to do this, you really have to like be very careful with what you're going to do with Drew McIntyre afterwards. But if Paul Heyman could come out and go, they met on a random SmackDown back in 2007 or whatever, I don't think so, I think Lesnar was gone by then. But if they have like had a match before when Drew was a jobber and he's like laid him out in 2 seconds, that's your journey right there. That's your, this guy got banged out, but that was 13 years ago or X amount of years ago.
Yeah.
I've become
Look how
so
I've
much better.
developed.
Yeah. For anyone else you're caring to mention, there isn't the history there, and there isn't the tape library there necessarily that you want to sort of lean on when you're trying to build a story that, I mean, we could tell it on a Raw or on a pay-per-view, but when it comes to WrestleMania, you kind of want to go bigger. You kind of want to have an arc that seems more than just your everyday, oh, we're just having a fight. And when you're building a fight for a prestigious title, this is another one where like they hit the reset button so often and just give it to Lesnar that I think I know the answer to this. Would putting the belt on Drew suggest that like you're fully on board with the Heyman direction of let's sort of have a look at the other guys now?
Yes, definitely. Like I said earlier, Heyman's got the sort of wrestling knowledge to know that the product needs to keep sort of developing and maturing and evolving rather than anything else. Let's have a look at what Brock Lesnar's wrestling schedule is next year and let's see what contract he's currently under and if he needs this belt or if he's buggering off to go and put his feet up for 6 months or what he's doing. That's your answer to it. Do we need someone to fill the void whilst Brock Lesnar's not around?
And fundamentally, if Drew McIntyre, they have a what you would call a big man brawl at WrestleMania, and it just comes down to Brock Lesnar loses on the night. Because I know you said earlier about if Drew loses, a clean loss to Brock Lesnar isn't the end of the world. It just depends on how you sort of follow it up. But if Drew just somehow happens to win, and I'm not calling it a fluke, I'm just saying like he's the last man standing, as it were, even though it's not a last man standing match. When Lesnar comes back, because it's very, very hard, because of Lesnar's schedule, for him to lose any heat whatsoever, you would instantly be like, I want to see them fight again. And it would be a money match.
Did Lesnar lose last year at WrestleMania? He did to Seth Rollins, didn't he?
Very quickly, yes.
In the first match?
Yes.
The Hulkster was there for that.
Yes.
Seeing Brock Lesnar lose on a big stage but it doesn't take any of the sort of shine off him.
No, because of the schedule he has, and because of the way he's portrayed. And the Rumble thing was really interesting because he didn't need to be in there. So fundamentally, we wanted to sort of see what they were going to do with him, and if it was going to be the...
Could you have seen him going the distance?
If they'd have done it like that, I think it would have got shat on.
Oh yeah, I think so. If the ring didn't fill up with more than 2 people at once, it would have got absolutely destroyed.
That was why, in hindsight, it looks so brilliant, and also why we're enthusing about this Rumble so much, is that every person that comes out, you're like, when Kofi comes out, you're like, okay, this guy's going to get the sort of revenge for losing the title so quickly. And then you get Rey Mysterio comes out and you go, okay, this is smart, someone that's actually got history with Brock Lesnar. And then Big E comes out, it's like 3-on-1, all 3 of them get chucked, and you're like, oh, hello, jeez. Like,
yeah, we could have gone somewhere with this.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then Keith Lee comes out, and then Braun Strowman comes out, and you go, okay, of course, it's
now
Vince.
there's a credible...
Now we're going to do this, right?
Beef!
So then Brock Lesnar chucks them out, and then Ricochet comes out, and you're like, well, he's got history with him, but like at this point, I'm looking at Roman Reigns and no one else. I think that was part of it, because you said earlier about like who's Brock Lesnar going to throw out. At the point where Ricochet comes out, toss, yes.
Let's use the word toss.
At the point where Ricochet comes out, you're looking at who's left and going, who the fuck's actually left to chuck him out other than Roman? Yeah. And surprises at the Royal Rumble, we always say, and I'm so guilty of this, that a surprise is all based upon the entrance. But one of the things that I think I've realised is it's also someone getting knocked out. And that pop when he kicked him over the ropes is one of the biggest pops I've seen at a Rumble since I can't remember. There has been very little in... It's almost been reverse pops in the last few years. You think Rey Mysterio coming out at number 30 when everyone was expecting Daniel Bryan. You think Kane and Big Show dumping everyone over the top rope when it was like, Roman Reigns going to go win another one. And it's the sort of joy, the unbridled, I didn't expect this and it's a good thing, was like, it's not quite the same as I'm ready to give him the belt, but in a way that was them giving him the belt.
Yeah, that was the push to the stars, wasn't it, really? The follow-up was good as well, the way that he just stood there staring him out as the match is still going on.
You say that.
Then throwing out poor old Ricochet, and then still staring him out.
It did look like a cutscene from like WWE 2K20 where someone runs up behind him and then just chucks him. Because I've seen that many times.
It should have happened like that.
One of the things that they do use Roman Reigns for, which is really interesting, is whenever there's a moment where it's like, we're going to wind the smarks up, or we're going to at least attempt to, they always leave him in there to make you go, oh, we know what's going to happen. So it makes it even better when he doesn't do it. And the funny thing about that is, we talked about Brock Lesnar not losing any heat whatsoever. Roman Reigns completely bulletproof on that. No one's looking at Roman Reigns not winning that Rumble and going, oh, he's not very good anymore, or he's not. The reason argument to say, as you suggested earlier, Roman Reigns will be on a higher card match on WrestleMania than Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. Okay, here's one for you then. So, this Royal Rumble seems to have very mixed reactions. There were highlights that everyone's agreeing on, one of them being Edge coming back.
Yeah.
One of them seeing sexy John Morrison.
Yeah.
That might have just been me. My question is then, if they did actually go with Roman Reigns winning it, so Drew McIntyre's done all the hard work to actually throw out Brock Lesnar and they've given him all this rub, and then Roman Reigns then wins it, do you think that takes the shine off it for the people that are liking it, or do you think Drew McIntyre winning it has ultimately been the deciding factor for why a lot of people have liked it?
As with everything in wrestling, it's about the how, not necessarily the what.
Yeah.
If Roman Reigns wins the Rumble because him and Drew have like a 5-minute sort of beat down with each other match where it ends and they're sort of both laying on the mat. Lesnar comes back, runs in, jumps the barricade, a couple of F5s to Drew McIntyre. Roman Reigns, having not seen this because he's a face, dumps him over the top. Everyone looks at Lesnar's the one that screwed Drew because Drew knocked him out. Fine. If Roman Reigns just throws Drew McIntyre over the top, that you're kind of looking at as going, it's one step forward and one step back. You've sort of got a guy who had the rub for knocking Lesnar over, and if Lesnar's not involved in his elimination in any way, it makes it seem like Lesnar didn't need to get his revenge because he knew he couldn't win it. Fundamentally, and I'm going to ask the question, do you think straight up Drew will win the title at WrestleMania?
No.
Okay.
No.
You seem to have a thought process there, or at least some cogs turning. So
it's head over heart, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
On the one hand, yes, I want to see Brock Lesnar without the belt.
Yes.
Because I still want to see Brock Lesnar, surprisingly, for all the sort of legit heat he gets because of his part-time schedule, and
It works, basically.
it does the job, and
Yeah.
he is still a big draw. He is. He's still
Yeah.
he's still a star, and he is still a big draw, and he still looks like a legitimate, angry UFC fighter. doesn't
Let's be
he?
perfectly honest, whatever happens at WrestleMania, that'll still be true.
Yes, it will. But I'm a bit annoyed. It's a sort of trope, isn't it? You win the Rumble, so then you have to go and win the big belt at WrestleMania. And for some reason, it needs to be against Triple H or Brock Lesnar. And guess what? The person holding the belt always loses because it's WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Fuck it. When I'm playing my WWE wrestling games, guess what? I've even fallen into that pattern. I need to win the big belt, and it needs to be on the grandest stage of them all. It needs to happen. Come on, let's mix it up a bit. Let's do something a bit more original. And guess what? This is a clever point. The stock for the Fed has gone through the floor, like I said. When's our dead period? SummerSlam sort of picks up around Survivor Series, so we're talking the summer sort of period.
Between WrestleMania and SummerSlam.
Yeah,
effectively.
let's save it till SummerSlam then. Let's not put all our eggs in one basket at WrestleMania, and let's spread it out throughout the year and actually try and get some of these newer fans watching the product later on in the year. Let's give it more time to build up the star that is Drew McIntyre.
If that's the case, then you probably are going to do the
maybe not series.
Yeah, maybe not 3, but at least 2. I don't know if they could carry this feud all the way through to SummerSlam, and it'd be like, I mean, you could do it if you're going to do Drew wins the title and then Brock Lesnar comes back before SummerSlam. You could do that, but Brock, I don't think would lose 2, because if he comes back, ultimately, I would want Drew to win in the end, because he would be a star then. I think, if he beats Brock twice. The thing I would say is, and we are so far out now, so there are so many intangibles within this, I don't see a match, or at least a prospective match, that I would get more excited for than this on the men's card. I'm looking at The Fiend and Roman Reigns, which is sort of suggested on the other side. Shrug.
You're not looking forward to Edge versus Randy Orton?
That'd be alright.
Edge, hooray! Randy Orton. I don't think I want to see Randy Orton do wrestling anymore.
If Randy Orton's going to have a match at WrestleMania, I don't mind it being in a match where I'm getting like everything I need from the other side, if you know what I mean. Edge's sort of upside counteracts Randy Orton's negative side, if you know what I mean.
I know, but you're sick of these
Part-timers taking...
part-timers stopping our new talent from rising up.
I don't mind it when it's 2 part-time. Well, it's not even... Randy Orton's not a part-timer, but he's I
hate it when legends come back, Stu.
I say Randy Orton's not a part-time wrestler, but if you watch him in the ring, he only wrestles part-time.
Sure.
Headlocks. Right.
Headlocks RKO, job done.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is you just said about it being a sort of same old for wrestling in terms of the Royal Rumble winner goes on to win the belt. Drew McIntyre is not a same old kind of guy. So I think if you're going to pull a trigger, you're saying about getting new fans on the product, I agree with you that if you want to carry this on, and the best way to make him look credible is to carry this on. But I think pulling new fans in is WrestleMania's the time to do it, because that's when the most sort of non-wrestling fans are going to be watching.
Yeah, you got the most eyes on the product then, so well then that's probably why they book it and I don't, Stu.
But we would all do a better job of booking
than Vince McMahon. Definitely do a better job, and I'd still be a better wrestler than half the roster. I still look at Triple H and think, nah, I'm better than you.
So I think it goes without saying then, as I asked you the question earlier, Drew has to win the title from her. And I know it's the A plus B equals C, and it's sort of expected that you said, okay, Royal Rumble winner goes on to win it. I am very scared because, as I mentioned before, that you get sort of Becky Lynch syndrome in terms of someone that gets quite over quite quickly, relatively organically. As soon as the WWE machine gets involved, I'm always a little bit like, oh, hello. So let's just sort of see what happens when Raw airs this week, and 1 week at a time, much like when you're going through in any sporting terms, let's take it 1 week at a time and see how far they can go with this. But there is a real potential here to move away from the same old things that we've seen, and one of the reasons why this has been such a big hit with fans is because of that.
Right, in a nutshell, I see the wheels falling off Drew McIntyre next week on Raw.
Yeah,
and
probably.
Bring the Rock back.
Yay! Rock v Brock. Let's do it. Right, this has been Beyond the Beermat. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.